hello, 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 hey, hello, hello.
Peace and light, y'all. So I promised that I would do a video on steps that I am taking to heal from emotional abuse. And this is the video. So 5 steps that I'm taking to heal from emotional abuse. First off, emotional abuse is a psychological form of abuse where trauma is inflicted on a person psychologically and can later on result in many side effects such as anxiety, depression, PTSD, and so many other things, right? So steps that I am taking to heal from emotional abuse is there's 5 of them. Step 1, identify the side effects of the emotional abuse. What effect did the emotional abuse have on you? It can be showing up as anything like anxiety, depression, PTSD, so many other things. For me personally, the side effect that I struggled with the most was emotional detachment. I was a very emotionally detached person, and it was beyond just like, not caring, like, oh, I don't care if somebody asks you how you feel about this. It's like, oh, I don't care, but really deep down inside you got some feelings. Like, I just genuinely did not care about anything, and I couldn't get attached to anything or anyone, any place. And to some people that may be good, however, it wasn't healthy for me. I didn't have an attachment to anything and anyone, and I realized that it was starting to affect my life. So step 1, identify the side effect of the emotional abuse. Step 2, you have to analyze how this is affecting your life, right? How is it hindering your life? For me, emotional detachment was hindering my relationships with friends, with family, with boyfriends. It was really, really hindering my relationships. And it hindered them because people would tell me, like, I don't know if you love me. Like, I don't know if you care about me. I've had several people say that to me in my life. And I was like, I hold you down. What you mean you don't know if I loved you? I felt like I was showing love by being loyal and being protective and helping and caring and like listening and giving and There's so many ways I felt like I was showing love, being present. But they wanted to hear it. They wanted to hear me say, I love you. They needed to hear me express what they meant in my life and how they felt about me. And I didn't do, right? I struggled with doing for a very, very long time. I struggled with finding feelings and being able to express them, right? And that was a really big issue for me because at the end of the day, it resulted in they didn't know if they were important in my life. They didn't know if they were valued in my life. So me doing step 2 and analyzing how my emotional detachment was affecting me and hindering my life, and realizing not only was it hurting myself and it was unhealthy for me, but it also was hurting the people who I loved, right? And who cared about me and who loved me. And I knew that that was something that I wanted to work on. So I identified that I had emotional detachment. I analyzed how it was affecting my life. And then I moved on to step 3, which was digging to the root. You have to dig to the roots of the effect that you have, right? So if you have anxiety, you got to dig to the roots and find out what caused the anxiety. If you have a PTSD, dig to the root and figure out what caused the PTSD. I say dig into the root because I see it as like a tree, right? And at the end of the day, I had to figure out what was the roots to this tree. What was the roots to emotional detachment? What was the trauma that was inflicted that caused me to have this emotional detachment? And the process of digging to the roots and finding that trauma literally looked like me going back and retracing the moment that the wall went up. At what moment did I get this emotional blockage? Because that's all emotional detachment is. It's really a blockage because the feelings are deep in there. The feelings, the emotions are there, right? But you just can't seem to connect with them. You can't seem to attach to them. There's a wall, there's a blockage. So I had to identify the very moments when that wall started to go up. And for myself, I grew up with a mother who is bipolar. She struggled with severe bipolar, clinically diagnosed. And anybody who grew up with anyone or knows anyone that has severe bipolar disorder, you know that it ain't fun, and it's definitely not easy at all to deal with and to be around that person. And we were definitely very emotionally abused on a regular basis, and it had a very big effect. And the way that I coped with that emotional abuse is I became stone. I really did. And I chose to become stone at a very young age because from my perspective, I feel like my mother thrived off of seeing you cry. She thrived off of knowing that whatever it is she said or did really hurt you, because she just wanted you to hurt the way she was hurting, right? And she wanted you to be in an emotional space that she was in, right? And that's all it was. She was just trying to pass her hurt on to someone else. And I don't hold that against her. I realize that it may not have been her intentions. It wasn't her intentions to be this person or to be this way. It's what she knew. And she did the best that she could with what she knew, right? My mother grew up in a very abusive household, physically, emotionally, very abusive. And she just passed the trauma on to her children, right? So I had to go back to the very moment that wall started going up, and I realized that it was at a very young age when I realized that, okay, you want to see me hurt, you want to see me cry, so I'm not crying, I'm not giving it to you. Nope, you're not hurting my feelings. And my way of preventing her from being able to hurt my feelings was for me to detach or disconnect from my feelings. Because if I don't have feelings, you can't hurt them, right? If I don't have feelings, you can't make me cry. Right? So that's how I looked at it. I looked at it like, if I don't have these feelings, she can't hurt these feelings. So I'm not going to have these feelings. I don't care. And I became stone. I became stone at a very young age. That stone wall was so strong that it carried into my adulthood, right? And then it was difficult for me to find those feelings again. So I identified that I had emotional detachment. I analyzed how the emotional detachment was affecting my life. And then I went back and I identified the trauma that caused that emotional attachment. Once I realized the trauma that caused the emotional detachment, I moved on to step 4, which was I had to speak to that part of me. I had to get to know that part of me, that side of me. Speak to that little girl's self, right, that was going through that emotional abuse, and ask her, how did she feel? Allow her to express her feelings, right? So I had to really kind of relive the emotional abuse just so that I can tap into my feelings and emotions at that moment, because that's when they were blocked. That's when I put up the wall. So as opposed to putting up the wall to break down the wall, I had to ask her, how did you feel? When this was being said to you, how did that make you feel? When this was happening to you, how did it make you feel? So I had to go back once again and tap into those feelings from the past and heal that part of me. Speak to that little girl part of me and say, it's okay. It's all right. Like, you can cry. You can express this. You're sad, you can be sad. If you are angry, you can be angry. You have the right to feel that way in that moment. You don't have to block those feelings anymore. And what that looked like for me, that was like really the work. That was the rough stage, right? Like, really speaking to that little girl's self and letting those old feelings out was the moment that I had to say, you know what, sis? Like, this is going to take some work, right? And this is going to take some breaking down and building yourself back up. So I spoke to that little girl part of me, and I allowed her to express her emotions and how she felt then, so that I can now reconnect to my emotions and identify how I feel now. So once I released those emotions from that time, the wall just started breaking down naturally, because I'm tapping in. I'm now tapping into feelings, and I'm tapping into emotions from then. Then I moved on to step 5, which step 5 was do the work to reconnect to my emotions now, right? And that is why I say the steps that I am taking, because I am continuously, consciously doing and practicing step 5. I'm doing work to reconnect to my emotions right now. And the work that I am doing, I have an exercise simply called How Do You Feel? And I check in with myself quite often to ask, how do I feel? And it can't be thoughts, it's feelings. Like, how am I feeling? Not just what I'm thinking, but how am I feeling, right? And in multiple moments, right? Not just when I think I'm happy or when I'm sad or when I'm angry. Multiple times. If I'm sitting on the balcony and I'm drinking tea, I'm asking myself, how am I feeling? You know, if I'm having a conversation with someone and they said something that may have hurt my feelings or it rubbed me the wrong way, I have to say, my feelings are hurt. I am feeling sad. I feel this. You know, so just really like doing the work to tap back into those feelings. So how do you feel? Write it down. Ask yourself throughout the day, throughout the week, how do you feel? You know, write it down, and then you can see what's causing those feelings, right? This is causing me to feel this way, and then why, right? So how do you feel? What is causing you to feel that way? Why is it causing you to feel that way? And that's an exercise that I do to reconnect to my emotions right now. It's a journey, it's work, but the work is definitely worth it. I'm seeing my relationships with people improve. I'm now able to have a conversation with someone and tell them how I feel about them. I'm able to tell them, you know, if I'm not feeling well, you know, I'm able to express that, and I feel emotionally healthier, right? So it's possible to heal from emotional abuse. Whatever your side effect is, whatever is going on, whether if it's the anxiety, whether it's PTSD, it's depression, whatever. Identify what the side effect is. Analyze how that side effect is hindering your life. Then you do the work to dig to the roots and find out what caused the emotional trauma, what caused it, what was that moment that this side effect kicked in, right? And then speak to that part of you. Talk to that part of you. What was going on in that abuse that made you respond in this way, right? And then do the work to reconnect with your emotions and rebuild better coping mechanisms for yourself, okay? Peace and light, y'all. I hope you are well. I pray your wellness. I hope these steps help someone. If you have any questions, DM me on Instagram at the Queen Po, or leave it in the comments below. I appreciate your energy, your love, and your light. Much peace, y'all.